What is asbestos? When is asbestos a risk? How is asbestos dangerous? What are the legal requirements? Introduction to Asbestos Management: Health, Safety and Procedures. What is asbestos? Asbestos is a fibrous mineral used in over 3,000 products worldwide, mostly in construction materials. It is used in all types of buildings, as well as components of mechanical equipment and vehicles. Asbestos is typically in two forms: friable and non-friable. Friable materials are considered a high risk due to the ability for fibres to become easily airborne. Examples of friable asbestos materials include backing to vinyl flooring, pipe lagging, oven seals, and fuse linings. Examples of non-friable asbestos materials include awnings, ceilings, infill panels, interior walls, exterior walls, gables, electrical backing boards, vinyl floor tiles, roofing, and packing materials. When is asbestos a risk? Materials remaining undisturbed in good condition do not present a significant health risk. Asbestos poses an increased health risk when materials are disturbed or are likely to be disturbed, in poor, damaged or deteriorated condition, or there is a potential for fibres to be released into the atmosphere. How is asbestos dangerous? Inhalation of airborne respirable fibres is the primary health risk. As a known carcinogen, it causes various types of lung cancer and other lung diseases. It can take decades for symptoms to appear. Respirable fibres are invisible to the naked eye. Specialised equipment is necessary to monitor and assess airborne asbestos levels. What are the legal requirements? Use and importation was outlawed in Australia in 2003. All Australian states and territories have regulations for the management and control of asbestos. All workplaces constructed prior to December 31, 2003 must have an asbestos register. Site controllers have responsibility for management of asbestos. This includes maintenance of asbestos registers, control of work that may disturb asbestos materials, and general asbestos management. Fines apply to individuals and corporations for non-compliance with the regulations. Asbestos register and report. Asbestos and other hazardous materials, such as lead paint, have been documented in a hazardous materials register and report for your site. The report has been prepared within the limitations of the scope of the assessment project. What does the report include? A register of all identified hazardous materials, location, type, friability and condition of the materials, risk assessment of items, details of laboratory results of samples, photographs of identified materials, details of areas not accessed during the inspection, and recommendations for management. How do I read and understand the register? Information on how to read the register can be found within the report. Each row of the register describes a different asbestos or hazardous material item identified at the site. Key recommendations for the safe management of identified items are shown against each item. Items listed as positive indicate the presence of hazardous materials. Photographs and sample numbers referenced in the register can also be found within the report. There may be unidentified hazardous materials in the locations listed in Areas Not Accessed. General asbestos management requirements are detailed within the report. Who needs to be shown the register? The person with management control of the site needs to ensure the asbestos register must be accessible to anyone who, at the site, has carried out work in the past, is currently carrying out work, or intends to carry out work in the future. This includes landlords and site owners, property managers, workers, contractors, tradespeople, volunteers, and anyone conducting work at the site. Furthermore, a copy of the asbestos register must be given to any person where there is a risk of disturbing asbestos materials. Asbestos awareness training should be provided to any person likely to be involved in asbestos-related work. Record keeping. Workplaces that have asbestos identified must have a written asbestos management plan that is maintained and up to date. The plan must be updated when there is a change made to the register, asbestos removal, or asbestos disturbance, sealing or enclosure. Site controllers have responsibilities for the management of asbestos in workplaces. All records relating to asbestos management decisions and procedures should be maintained as part of the asbestos management plan. How long must records be kept? Key records, such as air monitoring results, must be kept for at least 30 years. As a minimum, the asbestos items need to be reassessed, and the register and asbestos management plan must be updated at least every 5 years. Are there any labelling requirements? Where practical to do so, warning labels must be used to indicate the location of asbestos materials. Items are normally labelled during the survey and inspection process. Refurbishment and demolition works. What is required? Any existing survey reports are not suitable for demolition or refurbishment purposes. The asbestos register must be reviewed and revised prior to the refurbishment or demolition of any structure or equipment constructed before December 31, 2003. This is to ensure that it is adequate for the proposed purpose. If it is not adequate, it must be revised. What if there is no report? If there is no asbestos report for any structure or equipment constructed before December 31, 2003, it must be inspected for the presence of asbestos. Where the presence of asbestos is uncertain, for example in hard-to-reach places, samples must be analysed by a NATA accredited lab. If not sampled, it must be assumed that asbestos is present. Removal of any asbestos must take place before refurbishment or demolition commences at the site. Can minor works be undertaken on asbestos materials? Minor works, such as repainting and sealing asbestos materials, can be undertaken by competent persons under controlled conditions. Competent persons should review the asbestos register prior to any works, notify the property owner or manager prior to any works, notify building occupants prior to any works, follow the safe work procedures for the task from the Code of Practice, How to Manage and Control Asbestos in the Workplace. Make sure safety precautions are followed for the worker and the building occupants. Update the asbestos register and management plan at the completion of works. Who can remove asbestos? There are strict licensing requirements for the removal of asbestos materials. Asbestos must be removed by licensed contractors under control conditions. This includes safe work procedures, dust suppression techniques, appropriate protective equipment, and waste disposal at a licensed waste facility. Licensed removal contractors. A Class A licensed asbestos removal contractor is required to remove any quantity of friable asbestos materials. A Class B licensed asbestos removal contractor is required to remove 10 metres squared or more of non-friable asbestos materials. There are also specific requirements for the use of independent asbestos consultants during various aspects of friable and non-friable asbestos removal. Who are asbestos consultants? Independent asbestos consultants, such as GreenCap, play an integral role in asbestos management. They can identify asbestos, prepare registers and management plans, manage removal projects, provide air monitoring, and provide clearance inspection services. Air monitoring must be conducted during asbestos removal if there is uncertainty as to whether the exposure standard will be exceeded, and during all friable asbestos removal works. A clearance certificate must be issued before a removal area can be reoccupied. Emergency procedures. 6 basic steps. In the event that asbestos materials are accidentally disturbed, the following steps should be taken. 1. Remove people from the area. 2. Restrict access to the area by locking the door or putting up barricades and signage. 3. If installed, any air conditioning or fans in the area should be turned off. 4. Organise for an asbestos consultant to investigate the area and advise appropriate remediation strategies. This may include the involvement of a licensed asbestos removal contractor to undertake clean-up works. 5. An asbestos consultant to undertake air monitoring during the remedial works. 6. An asbestos consultant to provide clearance certification to allow reoccupation of the affected area. For further information, please contact Uniting Resources Property Services, GreenCap, or New South Wales WorkCover.